When your president says something on a public forum, it is important to listen to what he has said. And from Tinubu's most recent conversation at the African CEO Forum, what I got was that more pain is coming.
For me, Africa needs to put its money where its mouth is.
Would you put your mic? Do you put your microphone where your mouth is? Thank you.
And I wanted to discuss it because I believe that we need to be moving beyond sound bites and be discussing issues in totality. So that is what I want to do in today's video. Hi, my name is Ty, and I try to bring some common sense to the nonsense that is Nigerian politics and world affairs. If that's your type of thing, please like and subscribe. I'm trying to get my channel to a community of 500 subscribers by the end of June. So please help me out. It costs you nothing and it will mean the world to me. So let's discuss this conversation. I'll leave the link to the entire conversation so that you can watch it yourself and ensure that I am not misrepresenting anything that the president said. So, in the conversation, the host of the conversation was saying that, oh, yes, that progress has lagged the pain, and that especially as the elections are coming up, will they be thinking of basically relieving the pain for Nigerians, at least temporarily? And then Tinubu just effectively says that, well, that the it is a fake life for us to still be expecting for subsidies in today's global economy.
It is a fake life. So thank you can, in a global economy, continue the subsidy.
My first thought is nations like Saudi Arabia, Venezuela, and Iran subsidize their oil for their citizens. So I don't understand what he means by that. Yes, it is true that in our country, we have had problems with subsidies because, of course, as he mentioned, there have been people falsifying documents, there has been waste, and there's even been smuggling just to get the subsidy, just to get profits from the subsidy. But then all these are things that you could have addressed before you remove the subsidy and caused a shock to the system that has affected the average Nigerian. I feel like he has put the cart before the horse. But then again, he's the leader, so I guess that is his prerogative. He then mentions that, oh, out of the 36 states, only 27 states were unable to pay salaries for their staff, and there's no money effectively. And then the question I ask is, okay, now that you have ended subsidies, how many states are now fully paying their people? And it turns out that by the last check in 2024, there were still 30 states that were owing over ₦1 trillion to pensions and contractors. So effectively, the money that we have quote unquote gained from the removal of the subsidy, we have not now put it back into actually paying people that need to be paid. So to me, that kind of debunks the conversation around that. And when we come to talks about subsidies, you now have to ask yourself the question is, are we doing enough to maximize the raw oil that we have? Yes, we have given Dangote, and that's a good thing. But PH refinery is unoperational. Warri refinery is unoperational. Kaduna refinery is unoperational. All the money that you have gotten from this lack of subsidies, the fact that it has not been pushed into making these other refineries work is a problem. And while we're now focusing our entire energy on Dangote, all the other things that we can be doing around other refineries to do better are things that we can be doing. Again, I'm not the president, he should know better, but that's my thought. Then he now comes on to talk about taxation. The presenter points out that, oh, yes, once you tax people, people become more demanding. And then this is what he says.
Nobody wants to pay taxes ordinarily. Nobody. Taxation is not friendly to the wealthy, to the middle class, and to the poor. Every human being expects development. But the question they don't answer is how do you pay for it?
Sir, I don't think that people have a problem paying taxes. I think people have a problem when they do not see what their taxes are doing. If you look at countries like Sweden and Scandinavian countries, they are high tax, but they have high compliance because they can see what their taxes are doing. And then when we look at Nigeria, you see that, oh, as a citizen, I have to pay for my own electricity. I have to pay for my own water. I have to pay for my own waste disposal. I have to pay for my own security. I have to pay for my own transportation. And then the question now becomes, if I'm giving you tax money, where's my tax money going? Exactly are you doing? And I believe in that Bible scripture that says, "To who does well with little, more is given," something like that. So if you do not gain our trust with the little that has been entrusted to you, then taxing us will lead to more people feeling like the government just wants to steal from us. And that is a reasonable thing to think, considering how we have been moving as a country so far. Then they now ask the question of, oh, assuming you get a second term, what are you going to do? And I will let you hear what he says.
Citizen that pays tax is a citizen, whether corporate or individual. If you are not a taxpayer, are not exempted, then you are not a citizen.
Now that I have listened to what he has said, did that make any sense to you? I don't want to come off as a hater, but that just felt like a lot of jargon and politician-y answers. There was no specifics to anything that he said. But then again, he said something that I found very fascinating. He said that in his first term, he had to make hard decisions, regardless of the pain. And then he stopped reading newspapers and commentary because he knew that the pushback would be big. What I picked from that is that my president does not listen to criticism. He does not weigh what other people are thinking when he comes to doing things. He just has him and his people come up with the ideas, they implement it, and then they just move forward. They don't receive feedback and maybe adjust to how the Nigerians are accepting what they have done. And that to me is worrying because we all have blind spots. And if we're not willing to listen to people who are pointing out blind spots, then we will have a fundamental issue with how we are running things. And then he says that, oh, there's light at the end of the tunnel, that the economy is stable, the naira is stable. And I don't know why I feel like that is not my reality. He then says something about, oh, children are being paid some monies to go to school. And initially that put a red flag in my head. But I like to research and follow up with things people say. And the truth about it is that from the research that I had, the NEL fund has actually dispersed over 200 billion naira to over 1 million students in the course of the last 23 months. So, on that point, I can applaud the president. That is effectively 200K per student. If that is actually getting to the student, then that is an actual worthy initiative that, yes, the president should continue. And that just shows that while I'm critiquing the president, I am not so biased that I don't applaud good things that I see that he's doing. Then the next question he goes to, the host goes to, was that, oh, who needs more protection, consumers or businesses? And this is what the president said.
I will remove the word protection. I'll classify it and say support. Support for the big business, for them to be able to make revenue and create the jobs necessary. For example, a Dangote, a Boa, and others.
This to me shows the relationship between Dangote and the current presidency. I call Nigeria right now the Federal Republic of Dangote. And in a lot of ways, it's true because they are protecting his business because they believe that he's going to create a lot of jobs. And with that creation of jobs, it will help the economy. I get that thinking, but I do not agree with trickle down economics. I don't believe that if you give more money to billionaires, the money will magically trickle down to people who don't have, and then everything will go up. Again, I had the conversation previously around the multiple refineries that are not working. The more you do other refineries, the more competition there will be, the more we can produce, and the more our economy can grow. At least in my understanding. If you're an economist and you disagree with what I've just said, please leave it in the comment section below. But that is my thoughts on that. Then they now go further to discuss the coastal roads. And then in the coastal roads, he says something around, oh, yes, there's going to be inclusivity and tourism. Again, just felt like generic answers. But then he also said another thing that sparked my interest, and he said that the steel that is being used is made in Nigeria.
Of the economy. The steel being used is made in Nigeria. So my philosophy is Nigeria first.
And then another question that might deserve a new video is, where did the Ajakuta steel plant just magically restart without any of our knowledges? So what does it mean by the steel was produced in Nigeria? I don't understand that part. And then another question around the safety and then pragmatic partnership comes up. And then he says this.
Challenges will always be there. Those are things you cannot do alone. You can't operate the world in isolation. Even Trump, as bold as he is in China. He's in China. He's talking about them on Taiwan. So who am I in Nigeria to say I will do it alone? I must embrace my neighbors. I must pursue pragmatic collaboration uh, and partnership, which is very necessary to assist and make progress and enhance the security of life and properties of our people. And that is what is very, very necessary uh, for the region. And in ECOWAS, Nigeria is a big brother. In Africa, we are the fat lady. We must sing the tune. We must sing the right tune for others to pay attention to. And that is what we are doing.
There was a period, obviously.
We are the fat lady and we need to sing the right tune. But nothing shows that we are trying to sing the right tune. On this channel, we have covered multiple terror attacks and how badly our country has reacted to it. And then the question I ask myself is, what does Tinubu and his people think that they are doing in terms of this? Yes, he says, oh, we need to have strategic alliances, but what if you call yourself the big brother of Africa, what are you doing internally that other people are looking at and saying that, okay, these are things that I want to follow, these are things that I want to pick? And then the presenter now goes on to talk about how Nigeria is losing some of its diplomatic heft. And all Tinubu says is, it's there. It's there. The typical defensive thing. And then I look at it and I say, Nigeria is so behind in the level of development that we need to do. If Nigeria is still considered the giant of Africa, it's because the rest of Africa is not progressing at the rate it needs to progress, if we are being 100% honest. And the truth about it is that a lot of countries have left us behind if we are being 100% factual. The place where they did this thing in in Rwanda. Rwanda is doing fantastically well. Kenya is doing fantastically well. South Africa, while having their issues like we discussed on the previous video, they are doing well. Nigeria needs to step up to the plate. So overall, what I saw when I watched this entire interview was just a politician giving us some good answers, but generally it was just generic and it feels lacking, especially when it comes to thinking about where we want this nation to go in the next 4 years. I do not see or hear enough that convinces me that our president is the right man for the job at this moment. Let me know what you thought about the interview if you watched it, and leave your comments in the comment section below. Again, like and subscribe. Thank you for listening to me, and see you on the next video. Goodbye.